So, on your report card, 5 different codes. IE, EMG, DEV, PRF, and EXD. These are the codes. Those codes stand for exceeding, i.e. you are exceeding my expectations. This is generally speaking, like are you guys familiar at all with the percentages and letter grades and stuff? Have you seen these before? Okay, this is like a high, this is like your 90, if you're thinking back old school, or for Ungod, who's in grade 10 to 11, or 10 to 12, this is like 95 to 100%. Like this is like essentially perfect. Exceeding all expectations. PRF stands for proficient, DEV stands for developing, so like you are, aside from maybe a couple mistakes, you're pretty good. You're good. Developing means you aren't, I wouldn't necessarily call you proficient. Like there are some mistakes that are happening there, but they might be minor. We are well on our way to becoming a solid math student. Emerging means there's some work to do. You are, hello Sahel. There has been progress made, but there is work to do to becoming better at this stuff. And then IE stands for insufficient evidence. It means I can't make a judgment call. This is the judgment call. You haven't showed me enough. Okay, guys in the back, please stop talking. You have not shown me, guys, I know it's not English, but it's still loud enough for other people to not hear me. Insufficient evidence means you haven't showed me enough evidence that you are able to do this stuff that I can give you one of these 3. Or one of those bottom 4. This moves you on to grade 10. This has a very reasonable chance of having you loop around to do grade 9 again. Yes. What about, okay. So that's for the report card. On your assignments, I break some stuff up. So that's your report card grade. This is in class. Things get broken up a little bit because there's different kinds of, students in all these bands. Extending is still the same. That is just the way it is. EXD. I break up the proficients though, because technically speaking, on your report card, proficient could be anywhere between like 75 and 95%, which is a huge band, very wide range of students. So I break this up on the report card into PRF and what I call HPRF. PRF, proficient, is your 75 to 85, and your highly proficient, this is like your 86 to 95, because there are different levels of proficiencies. If you are barely proficient versus you are almost extending or exceeding is the word I keep wanting to use, that's different kinds of proficiency. This is a huge band. So I break it up into proficient and highly proficient. Developing stays developing, but then I break up emerging. There is EMG, which still stands for like emerging. So like you are progressing in the realm of grade 9. And keeping in mind this one is just a quiz. It is EBGL is the other one. IE still stands for IE. But EBGL, again, keeping in mind, this is just a quiz. And I'll explain what just a quiz means in a second. EBGL stands for E is emerging. G and L stand for grade level. And this scary letter B, unfortunately, stands for below. Means for what I expect my grade 9 students to be able to do, you're not there yet. So you are developing as a math, like you are showing me that you are learning things, but we're still not quite at where I want you to be emerging in high school. So that is what this code stands for. Now, quizzes. Let's talk about quizzes. Boom. Quizzes are a snapshot right now. of what you are able to do. And so perhaps you are not where you would like to be, or where Miss S would like you to be, or some other entity might like you to. I might not, want you to be where you're at. I want you to be better. So this quiz is a snapshot in time of what you're able to do right now. If you are dissatisfied, if someone who's going to impact your life negatively is dissatisfied, parent or guardian, for example. Quizzes, there's two things you can do with quizzes. First of all, we correct quizzes for credit. And I'll explain how that happens in a second. So I'm going to give you class time today to do that. We're going to correct these quizzes. We're going to go through it between on God, Miss S, myself, your notes, each other. You can collaboratively work on this thing. We're going to correct our quizzes, and you're going to hand it back in. I'm going to grade your corrections, and that's going to go into my ed, bump your grade. Okay? So you're going to learn from the mistakes we made or the questions we left blank. Yes? It depends on the spread between how you did on the quiz and how good your corrections are done. If you did really poorly on the quiz and your corrections are just amazing, it will bring you up a lot. If you're already at a proficient and you do your quiz corrections, it will still bring you up, but it won't be quite as dramatic, perhaps. Oh, I thought that was a hand. It was an umbrella. So that's that. The other thing with quizzes is that they can just disappear. Because I don't care in the long run what you were able to do on Monday, September 20th. No, Monday, September 23rd. I don't care about Monday, September 23rd. What I care about are the days where either you write me the chapter test on this, because that's when we have to wrap this chapter up, put it on the shelf and grab the new chapter, or again, you guys are going to have opportunity to write me a final exam. So there's 2 dates coming up that are more important than this quiz. I don't care about the quiz date. I care about the test date and your final exam date. If on either of those 2 days, you can show me on those days that you are able to do better on this content than you did on September 23rd, this gets omitted like it never happened, and your better grade from the future goes over top and wipes it out. I do not punish students for doing poorly on quizzes unless they make no effort to do better the next days. Okay? So quizzes. Quizzes are a snapshot right now, but they can be overwritten, they can be improved upon. Tests cannot be rewritten. Actually, that's not true. Tests can be rewritten once, and your final exam cannot be rewritten at all. But if your final exam is better than all the stuff that comes before, this is what will take over your whole grade. And then these are what goes onto your report card. So I guess these arrows can go backwards this way too. If this is what you're seeing in class, this is what it will turn into on your report card. And unless I really have no evidence, you will likely move on. If you give me no evidence, I can't move you on. But if you give me evidence that you are even emerging, you'll be moving on to either Workplace 10, or some of you might actually decide you want to go Foundations 10. And that'll be dependent on a conversation. With some of you, it'll be a conversation with me. Some of you, it'll be a conversation with, yeah, what's her last name? Miss Jansen. For some of you, it'll be a conversation that brings in Learning Support Services if you're connected to Learning Support Services or the Learning Center. So that's a conversation that you will have with us, and then we'll find out if you're in this category, if you've given us evidence that you are able to do this stuff. There's 2 versions of grade 10 math. You and us pick your path. You don't have to leave yet, do you?
No, I was just to figure out the hand.
You put it down, Garrett. You just pay attention to what I'm doing, dude. Because you're going to ask me this question again probably at some point in the future, and I'll be like, look at the video because you were in class. So yeah, that's what this looks like. Questions about anything you see on the screen here? Okay, cool. So, I gave you guys calculators to do this quiz, and some of you on your quiz just gave me answers. I told you guys a number of times, to show your work. And just to use the calculator to do your arithmetic. It's in a perfect world, it would have just sped you up, but I still wanted you to show me what you actually chose to do. Some of you did not show me your work. If you punched it into your calculator exactly as it was written, and it gave you, for example, -64, the best grade that you're going to get on this thing is 0.5, because yes, you showed me that you could use a calculator, that your calculator was able to do the work, but I wanted to see what you actually did. And some of you understood this. Some of you went, and this is how I wanted you to do this, and this is what you're going to model for me as we're doing corrections. Some of you you decided to show your work like this, okay? You said, well, BEDMAS. BEDMAS stands for brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So I'll use number 2 as an example. You said that 6 times -10, you wrote the arrows like this, and you said, this is -60 minus 4. You showed me that, and then you said that this was equal to -64. This is what I need to see. Or some of you did this. 6 times -10 equals -60 plus 4. Nope, minus 4. -60 minus 4 is -60. Some of you did it like that. However, whatever work you're doing on the calculator, whatever steps you're asking the calculator to perform, that is what I need to see when you guys demonstrate for me that you can do the skills that we've been going over. So this gets you half a mark. This gets you a full mark. It completely shows me that you know what you're doing. And then there was some of the BEDMAS mistakes. You recall, this gives us the order that we do things. And the way that I taught this, the way I encouraged you to do these questions, were to do things one change at a time, write your change down, and then go back to BEDMAS and say, okay, what happens next? So I'm going to use number 3 as an example of what I mean by that. So work with me here. Someone tell me what to do. BEDMAS starts with B. B stands for bracket. So what has to happen first? Somebody. Anybody. Dakota. The 10 plus 1, which is 11. You bet. So if you're going to make that change, the -9 minus 44 stays, and we divide, and 10 plus 1 is 11. Check. Brackets are done. There's no exponents. The next letter in BEDMAS is the letter D, and D stands for division. Is there division in this question? Yeah. So that's what has to happen next. This is what needs to happen. The -9 stays there, and I've got -44 divided by 11. What is -44 divided by 11? Dakota. It is -4. And now I'm going to do my last step here. This you could have used a calculator for it. There's no work to show for -9 minus 4. Or you could have used your number line for this. This is -13. That's an example of how you'd show work for that. Some of you guys are rushing through your work, and I want you to be, Zach, don't distract Denny. Zach, if you could sit up and face the front, that'd be cool. I know, Denny, you might not have been distracted, but he was trying. You don't know. So that is how I want you guys to model what we're doing here. And every one of those steps shows up here. Some of these questions, they look a little tricky. But if you follow BEDMAS, one step at a time, really deliberately, don't rush, you'll be okay. Yes, Hassan. So now I'm going to ask, are there any questions anyone wants me to do from the front page? Questions 1 to 10. Anything anyone wants me to talk about? Hassan wants number 8. Does anyone want me to talk about any of these questions that come before number 8? Number 7. So I don't want to do it all for you, because I do want to leave you these things for the corrections, but I am going to make some notes, certainly, Sahil. So, Sahil, you want 7. So what's the first thing that you think we should do with a question like number 7? The brackets, okay? So then inside those brackets, I've got -2 plus 11 minus 2. When we have addition and subtraction linked together, it's important to remember that we do them left to right, just in the order that they're written. So if I'm going to do that, I'll zoom this thing in here so we can see question 7 better for Sahil, and then Hassan will jump to 8. You're going to go in order. -2 plus 11 is 9, minus 2, 7. So you could go like this and say, well, this is 9 minus 2. That's going to be, this is going to be 7. And what I still have here, I still have this -14 minus 10 minus 35 divided by whatever came out of these brackets. Now, Sahil, what's the next step? According to BEDMAS. This comes next, and 35 divided by 7. Either you could use your multiplication table for, Ethan, you paying attention to what's going on here? Or you can punch it in your calculator, because I gave you your calculators for this. 35 divided by 7 is 5. So I'm going to have -14 minus 10 minus 5, and you just work that way. So that's how you do a question like 7. Hassan, you wanted 8. Okay, BEDMAS says B brackets. Is there any math inside brackets to do? Is there? No, there's not. These brackets are just number holders. They don't actually hold math inside them. Just numbers. -5, -11, -6, and 11. If you just look at each one, there's nothing happening inside. So we can move past B. There's no E. There's no division here, so then I have to multiply. What am I is there multiplication here, Hassan? Yeah. Yes, there is. Where is it? Between the brackets. When there's no symbol written, that means I'm multiplying. I'll put little X's up here to help us remember that. So, and now you're going to change one thing or two things at a time and leave everything else the way it is. So this -13 is going to stay here. I'm still going to have this plus. I'm still going to have that minus. And I'm still going to have the -13, the minus -13. -5 times -11, you could punch that into your calculator. Or you could punch that, or you just look at your multiplication tables. 2 negatives is going to be positive. 5 times 11 is 55. And -6 times 11 is going to be -66. So I've changed these two things, and everything else stays the same. And now I'm just adding and subtracting things. I can work left to right. And your calculator will do that. It'll march left to right. Some of you guys did it in chunks. You said, okay, well that is going to be, that's 55. Then this is going to be 42. Some of you said, oh, the double negative. If I have if I'm subtracting a negative, that's the same thing as doing what? Yes, Jordan, thank you. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as addition. So that 66 is going to become plus 66. Same thing with the 13 here. And now you just march your way across here, and that's what you're going to get. Hassan, does that make sense? Yeah. For a lot of you guys, it's being willing. You have to be willing to slow down a little bit and march your way through the steps. Don't rush, because that's where the mistakes are going to be made. Don't just slam it all into your calculator. Slow down, show your work. it will happen for you. It'll work. So I'm not going to do anything else on that front page. I want you to flip to the back. I'm going to review what it means to simplify. Because some of us forgot, maybe the fractions were so long ago we forgot what simplifying means. To simplify, but some of you asked me about it, and I gave you, Freya, you okay? Okay, yeah, do what you gotta do. Simplifying means a few things. It means lowest terms, it means reduce, it means take the fraction and give it to me as simple as possible. For example, and some of you asked me about this, and this is what I drew. Anyone who asked got this picture. I drew this. I said, okay, well, you've got a pizza. The pizza's cut. I can't remember if I did 4 or 8. It doesn't matter. But let's cut it into 4. And let's say you had these 2 pieces. There are 4 pieces there, and you've had 2 of them. So we could write this as the fraction 2 over 4. But if you look at what I've shaded in, that's half the pizza, right? So 1/2 is another way to represent 2 over 4. And then the question becomes, how do I get there? This is the simplified version. How do I go from here to here? Divide. And I have to divide the top and the bottom by the same thing. In this case, and there's a few ways you can do this. You can play with the things on your calculator. Some of you were doing that. To find a number that divides out of both. I saw some of you guys writing down lists of multiplication in your calculators. Or on your tables, or your pages rather. That's great. But it also works to go onto your tables here. You can see 2 2 won't work, for example, in this first one, because 18 and 27 both aren't even. So we can just jump over to 3 and we can take a look here. Do I hit 18 and 27 in the 3's column? I do, actually. 18's right there, 27's right there. So I could divide them, if I did this, 18 over 27, I could divide both by 3. You can use your multiplication tables for this too. If I'm in the 3's column and I hit 18, I go over, 18 divided by 3 is 6. 27 divided by 3, same deal. 27's right here. It's 9. And now, am I in lowest terms again? Well, this one should be easier to see. 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3 again. They're right there. So I'm going to divide by 3 again. I'm going to divide by 3 again, and we're going to get 2 over 3. This is what lowest terms looks like. This is what the work for lowest terms looks like. Anyone who just shoved it into their calculator and wrote down a decimal got it wrong, because that's not a fraction in simplest terms. That's taking a fraction, converting it to a decimal, which is what we did over here. Any of you who did that over here? Perfect! That's what I wanted! Love it! Not here. This, I wanted you guys to show me that you could reduce, that you understood how to do that. And then the last piece was leaving it at, showing me you understood the difference between a mixed number and an improper fraction. Some of you asked, and I came around and I offered assistance. Lots of you did not ask. Can't help you if you're not going to ask the question. So these 8 questions were all the same. These ones were very similar, except you're doing the opposite. Instead of simplifying, you wanted to find a common denominator down here. For 6 and 8 and for 4 and 8. So finding a common denominator is finding a multiple of these two. And to do that, we used our multiplication tables for these two. We went up in the 6's, we went up in the 8's until we found a common number. 24 shows up in both. For 8, it's times 3, and for 6, it's times 4. So down here, we multiplied bottom and top by 4. We multiplied bottom and top by 3. And you can use your calculator for this if you wanted. We got this. They have the same denominator, so we can compare these fractions. This one, the 21 over 24, is obviously bigger than 20 over 24. And we were done there. And then this last one, it wasn't, you guys just needed to convert all these things, which lots of you did very well. Jovan, I want to call you out because you did one thing on this question that was awesome. You're the only one that did it. You took this and you 2 and 3 over 2. You said that this was, you wrote this on your paper. You're the only one that did, and it was awesome. You said that 3 over 2 was 1.5, and you left the 2 there, and then you added these together. The only one that wrote that down. And then you said, oh yeah, 2 plus 1 is 3, and the half comes along for the right. It's great. I love it. That's a way to show your work for some of these simplifications. And then lots of your guys' number lines looked different. That's totally fine. One of you went real crazy and went up by 0.4s. Ethan, I think that was you. I loved it. I can't remember who it was. It was great. If it was different than I went up by, but it worked for you. And you still put things in the right spot. It actually might have been Liam. I can't remember who it was now. But it was one of you guys that sits in this back corner. You decided to go up by 0.4s. It worked. It was great. Some of you guys went up by 1s. As long as you put it in the right spot, I didn't care what your scale looked like. You were good. So we're going to take the rest of class today, and who knows, maybe sometime tomorrow. We'll see how it goes, and do corrections on these things. How I want corrections done, we're going to include in the video, except I don't want it upside down. It's right there on the screen. So you guys are going to see it in 2 spots now. The video people can watch it on the video. All y'all can look over here. And I wrote it on the, that's now in front of it, screen people. So, I'll move. This, I leave it on the board here because I tell you my grade 9s all the time, and then they forget. And then it never happens this way, but it's really not all that difficult to do. Corrections on a separate piece of paper. I'm not sure if I spelled separate right. Doesn't matter. On a separate piece of paper, I have blank up at the front, right next to the whole bunch. If you have your own line, you can have lined. If you want line and don't have it, I don't have any, you get your own somewhere. On a separate piece of paper, you need to write out the question that you got incorrect. The whole thing. Whether it was wrong, incomplete, or you didn't do it. Write out the question. Do it, showing me all your work. You're going to take your corrections page, you're going to take your quiz, and you're going to staple your corrections to the back. I underlined the word back. Of your quiz. You're going to hand that in. I'm going to grade them. I am going to either, you have 2 options here, I can give them back to you, but if you're just going to lose it in the vortex that is some of your guys' backpacks, or the garbage can because you don't care about your quizzes, every one of you on Thursday, when I'm going to do it, okay, is going to get a file folder. You're going to write your name on the file folder. And you're going to put the file folder, I have drawers over there that are empty, waiting for student files. Any test, any quiz, that you are going to, well, all tests have to, but any quiz that you're like, I'm going to lose this or I don't care about this, goes into the file, so that when we're studying, preparing for our test or final exam, we can pull up this big file and it's boom, all of the son's work in the file. So that the son can go and look and see, oh look, I did this really well, but I need to work on these things, but I did this wrong, but then I have my corrections, and I have it corrected, and Mr. Duda marked my corrections, and maybe we corrected the corrections if the corrections are still incorrect. And that's all there. A little cool math pack for you to work with, to call your own. Hassan, you had a hand up. Is it related at all to what we're talking about? Kind of? I'll take kind of. That is on your lunchtime, you want to come play N64, you're welcome to use the TVs. Or there's also a Super Nintendo and an Xbox and a PlayStation in there. On your lunchtime, should you decide, you're welcome to. If we decide to throw a Christmas party, we'll activate all those systems. But until then, those are kind of the only times we're going to throw those on. Wasn't relevant at all, but that's the answer to that question. Okay, so today, that's what you're doing. None of you don't have corrections to do. So take your stuff out, find yourself a blank piece of paper, or come get one from me, or 2 or 3, or however many you need. Hole punch them if you want them hole punched, or don't. That's fine. And we're going to do corrections. Ms. S will help. Remember, Ms. S will help. I'm God's available. I'm available.
I have another question.
Okay. Okay, pause. Hassan's got a good question that everyone needs the answer to. Hassan, can I throw your quiz up on the screen? Okay. Boom. Here's Hassan's quiz. Everyone stop moving and look. Hassan's like, what happened here? Why did I get checks? Why did I get 0.5? Why did I get 0.75? Maybe we can discuss this as a class and take a look at it. So, these two were correct. Hassan showed his work. He divided both by 9, got 2/3, check. This one divided both by 4, check, we're good. Then Hassan went down here and he divided both of these by 9 and got 4/10, but only got 0.5 for that. What's wrong with this? Dakota. Yes, he showed me, Hassan, where'd he go? He's right there. You showed me that you can simplify, but you didn't show me that you recognized how far that you need to go. When simplify means you gotta go all the way. So these were both even. The other piece was, there's another reason why he lost, because this one here, he only lost a 1/4 mark for, but it still can be simplified further. What's the difference between these two? There's more than just simplification here. Nope. It's because there's 2 parts to this. I wanted you to write your answer as a mixed number when necessary. And you didn't do that here. Sorry, this is reduced, but you didn't write it as a mixed number, so that's where you lost a 1/4 mark here. Here you have a whole number sitting out front that you just ignored totally. So you lost a 1/2 mark because it's not a mixed number. You didn't bring that integer along with for the ride, and you didn't simplify. So you just write it right there. And that's a mixed number. A whole number and an integer and a fraction is a mixed number. Which is why down here we made similar mistakes. You lost a 1/2 mark here because you made 2 1/4 mark mistakes. You didn't simplify this all the way, and you didn't write it as an improper fraction. Sorry, no, you did write it as an improper fraction. This, well, no, what happened here? Oh, this one you didn't leave as improper either, because there's still a 1 hanging out here, and then you have to turn this thing improper. These wasn't simplified all the way. Actually, this one I should have only given you a 1/4 mark for. 0. See, this is Hassan getting more marks. Sometimes things work out for you when you throw your test on the screen and the teacher goes over it for everybody. Okay? So the degree to which you made a mistake, either you didn't finish it, but you were showing me what you needed to do. You lose a 1/2 mark or a 1/4 mark. If you drop the minus sign, I'll take a 1/4 mark off. But if you made some fundamental errors, you multiplied or you added before you divided. For example, once you did that, that is where you're going to lose bigger chunks of marks or get no marks at all. So, this is what we're doing. God can help, Seth can help, I can help. Ethan's had his hand up 4 times. So get to work. Separate sheet of paper, write out the question. Ethan, let's talk, man. Oh, no, it wasn't you doing that 4x4. This was really well done. You did a good job on this question. The only thing you lose is that negative 1.25 is more negative than negative 1, so it should be on the other side of the negative 1. That's the only thing you lose right there. That's 3.5 out of 4 marks. Those 4 marks, and you got 3.5. Oh, sorry. You lost a 1/4 mark for that. And you lost a 1/4 mark because that's not 3.5. So you can put 3.2 on here. See, this is supposed to be 3.2. But where's 3? But there's no 3.2 down here. 22, yeah, I don't know. I took a quarter mark off for that. Yes. Put your name on the board. Why are you going backwards? Oh, hold on. Maybe you'll show that well? Yeah, grab a separate sheet of paper, let's do this. Grab a separate sheet of paper, guys. Let's do this. Okay.